I hope you like it. The tall oak stood proud, overlooking the river valley below, growing highest of its brothers at the top of a lazy, curving hill. Its leaves trembled in a steady, cooling breeze, lapping playfully at each other in a giggling sound of rustling. This oak knew the hilltop well, its roots plunging deeply into the warm, fertile soil, tangling with the grass and flora that were its closest friends and neighbors. It was happiest here, high above the human world and its harsh realities. The sky, ever present, ever knowing, readied the world below for a peaceful night, taking off its pale blue sundress and slowly changing into its dark blue velvet gown. She knew the tree well, its branches always reaching higher towards her every season. Sometimes, on a quiet day, she would reach back in the form of raindrops, laying tiny kisses on every surface that looked her direction. These two are forever, isolated from crueler fates of beings lower on the hillside, contented together. One day, a man climbed the hillside, his small form hiking steadily up to the oak tree. He took comfort and rested under its chittering leaves. Only for a moment.
Picture this. You're on an airplane.
My God. Only for a moment, he promised himself. He just needed a rest. The small being bent over, placing fingertips into the grass closest to the oak tree, and seated himself against its firm trunk. With a deep breath, the oak could feel the tension release from him, his small form molding into the tree, and quickly the human fell asleep. The oak tree looked to the sky and shrugged, a few of its leaves rustling from its branches to fall around the human. The sky looked to the oak tree, also perplexed and concerned. She knew what humans would do with a beauty like the oak. The sky grew gray with concern as the winds picked up speed. Still, the human slept. Perhaps if she readied the world for sleep, the human would awaken and move away, sparing the oak tree any harm. Quietly, she slipped out of her sundress and put on her gown, as she had done many nights before. The human didn't notice. Though his face and body were turned towards the sky, he didn't see her. The sky tried again, this time by calling in some friendly clouds to help waken the man. Dark gray clouds slowly, quietly filled the sky, snuffing out the moonlight and stars from seeing anything beyond them. But they grew too crowded and began to bump into each other as they began to thunder objections at one another and clap for apologies. The sky tried to peer around them to see if the man was still there. His small form turned, curling in on itself away from the sky and the fighting clouds. The tall oak looked again to the sky, but it couldn't see her because of the fighting between them. The clouds grew louder, and the oak became worried the human could be hurt. It bent its trunk to try and shield the man from any harm, but as it did, a slap from the clouds stung at its roots. No harm, thought the tree. They didn't mean its thought cut short as another slap hit against its branches. The oak wanted to call out for help from the sky, but couldn't see her, couldn't find her beyond the fighting and growing anger. The sky too looked for the oak, concern growing more and more as she called in more clouds for help. She knew the man could break the oak, damage it so badly it would never stand tall again. But as more and more clouds joined the view, more and more thunder and lightning struck around. The tall oak huddled over the man, pulling all its branches to drape in a cascading curtain around his sleeping form. All the while the clouds let loose their frustration and anger at each other on everything below. The tiny human, this little man, began to slur in his slumber. "Oh good," thought the oak. "He can get somewhere safer now, and I can tell the clouds to move along." But as the man woke to the smell of burning wood, the oak knew it was too late. The man ran down the hillside, back to his village in the river valley below. But the oak, crooked and burning, cried out in pain. Beyond the clouds, the sky heard the oak's call. She let loose a storm, throwing wind and rain around the valley below. How dare this human hurt her friend? How dare this small creature think to damage someone as innocent and kind as the oak tree? The clouds grew scared and huddled together, forgetting their anger at each other in fear of the sky's rage. On the hilltop, as the rain began to pour over the oak, it knew the damage was deep and permanent. It knew it would never be the same or to look up into the sky again. But through her anger, the sky had saved the oak from burning. Clouds quickly ran away from the sky, chased by gusting winds, and at last the sky could see the oak again. But she was not prepared. The man had indeed done the thing the sky most feared. He had taken the oak from her. He had hurt the oak, bent and burnt. Raindrops grew thick as the sky began to cry over her friend. I don't know if I'm the sky, the man, or the tree in this story. I think it depends on the day which one we can be. Sometimes we're the clouds, too busy fighting each other to really see the damage we're causing around us. Sometimes we're the man, climbing to the highest peaks and just looking for a place to rest. But I think more often we think ourselves as the tree or the sky, both looking to each other for help, for protection, for compassion. But when we lose sight of those things, we rage or damage ourselves. I can think of many times where I was the sky, trying everything to protect my friends, my family, myself, and in the end, doing more damage to all of those relationships than I realized at the time. Likewise, I can think of many instances where I was the tree, tall and strong, but hurting myself to create a safe space for others who didn't even notice I was burned. I don't know what the right choice is, to rage or to bend, but I do know life can give us all many challenges where maybe we don't see the other side of our well-intended actions. But maybe there is no right choice. Just trust that the other will do their part, and together everyone can thrive. I still don't know if any of this makes sense to anyone but me. Maybe I hope it reaches those who need to hear it like I do. I hope you're doing your best tonight. I hope you're continuing to try. is all any of us could ever do. And maybe thinking a little longer about possible outcomes before we take action. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you feel a little more seen than before. I know I needed this tonight. And I want to thank you for sitting with me. You are appreciated and valued. I hope you have a good evening and a great tomorrow. See you next time.
I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago. I've changed for the better this time. I thought I would never be fine. I strive just to say I'm alright, and for the first time in a long time I'm alright. I've seen a lot of change, been through a lot of pain. Some things are not the same as they were a year ago, but all will be okay. I move on each and every day. The past is where it stays, way back a year ago.